Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan. We're both part of the team here at Snarful Solutions Group in Sacramento.
Glad you could join us. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025.
And here in Sacramento, it is definitely feeling like summer. Expecting a high of 100 degrees today. So stay cool out there.
Definitely. And looking nationally, quite a bit of active weather. We're seeing severe thunderstorms, heavy rain stretching from the Midwest up into the Great Lakes.
Yeah, potential for damaging winds, some hail, maybe even a few tornadoes in that mix.
And the heat isn't just here. Significant heat continues across the desert Southwest, parts of Texas, even North Alaska, believe it or not.
And it looks like that heat is building into the eastern and central U.S. too. Probably sticking around through next week.
Okay, a quick look back at the markets from yesterday's close, Tuesday, June 17th. The Dow Jones finished at 42,215.8.
And the S&P 500 closed up at 5,982.72.
All right, so for today's conversation, we're digging into the latest Snarful internal tech article report.
That's right. We've picked out the top 3 tech news stories that caught our eye, and we want to break them down.
Our goal, as always, is to connect the dots, figure out how these big developments actually relate to your everyday life.
Exactly. What does it mean for you? Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, a pretty significant situation developing in Memphis, Tennessee. The NAACP is planning a lawsuit against Elon Musk's company, XAI.
Yeah, this centers on XAI's massive data center there, the one they call Colossus. The NAACP is alleging environmental violations.
What are the specifics they're raising?
Well, they've formally asked authorities in South Memphis to actually halt operations at Colossus. They're citing concerns about a lack of due diligence, and they're calling it a dirty data center.
A dirty data center. What makes it dirty in their view?
The core issue seems to be these 35 gas turbines that XAI was using or is using to power the facility. The NAACP claims XAI didn't have the required permits for them.
Okay, and these turbines, they generate emissions, obviously.
Right. The NAACP estimates these turbines could be putting out between 1,200 and 2,000 tons of nitrogen oxide every year.
Wow. And nitrogen oxide, that's not good stuff, right? Smog, acid rain.
Exactly. Respiratory issues, too. And the NAACP is specifically saying this pollution is impacting nearby, predominantly black neighborhoods. They name Boxtown, which is a historically black community about 2 miles away.
So it's not just environmental, it's an environmental justice issue for them.
Precisely. They also raise concerns about transparency, saying residents weren't really informed and that public agencies haven't done much even when ETA reached out to.
So what are they asking for? Penalties, shutdown.
They want penalties, yes, and they want XAI to stop operating any unpermitted turbines. They're citing violations of air quality laws, even open meeting laws.
They had a pretty strong quote in their statement, didn't they?
They did. They said, being the world's richest man doesn't give you the right to pollute black communities and jeopardize the health of its residents. Very direct.
Okay, so that's the NAACP's position. What's the response been from XAI or, local officials in Memphis?
Well, XAI's general stance, as stated previously, is that they collaborate with officials and community leaders.
Standard corporate line, maybe.
Could be. Local officials like the South Memphis mayor and Chamber of Commerce folks, they initially maintained that permits actually weren't necessary for those turbines during the first year of operation.
Interesting. So a disagreement on the regulations themselves?
Seems like it. The Shelby County Health Department, the SEHD, they're sort of in the middle. They're reviewing public comments right now, including that NAACP letter, before they decide on XAI's air permit request.
And the utility company? MLGW.
Memphis Light Gas and Water says, look, legally, if we have the capacity, we have to provide service. They also say they've been transparent, shared fact sheets, held a town hall last August.
So lots of different players, different perspectives. What about the turbines themselves? Is XAI still relying on them?
That's a key point. Apparently, XAI is moving away from them as the main power source.
Yeah.
They've installed 168 Tesla Megapack battery units, which is significant storage.
Okay.
And they reportedly already removed half of those 35 turbines after a new electrical substation came online.
So they're switching to grid power more.
Looks that way. They expect the rest of the turbines will just be for backup power once a second substation is ready, maybe this fall.
But they still want some turbines.
Yeah, interestingly, they have another application with the health department to install 15 permanent backup turbines.
Okay, so fallback power. Because this Colossus data center, It's for training their AI, Grok, right? Needs constant power.
Exactly. Launched last September.
Yeah.
And they're already planning a second data center in the Whitehaven area. So the demand for power is just growing.
So connecting the dots for the listener here, what's the bigger picture takeaway?
I think this really highlights a fundamental tension. You have this incredibly rapid expansion of AI technology, which demands enormous amounts of energy.
Right.
And then you have the very real impacts on local communities and the environment. It forces us to ask, what does progress really look like? How do we balance innovation with community health, with environmental responsibility? It's not just happening in Memphis. This is a question communities everywhere are going to face as AI infrastructure grows.
A crucial question indeed. Okay, let's shift from the infrastructure powering AI to the AI models themselves. Google's made some news.
Yeah, big news from Google AI. They've announced that their Gemini 2.5 Pro and 2.5 Flash models are now generally available, or GA.
Meaning out of preview, ready for primetime use by developers.
Exactly, and they didn't stop there. They also introduced a new model called 2.5 Flash-Lite, which is designed to be even more cost-efficient.
Okay, so it sounds like they're building out a more structured offering.
That's precisely it. They're creating this clear, three-tiered product family. The idea is to give developers options, letting them balance performance, speed, and critically cost.
Makes sense. So break down the tiers for us. What's the top level?
Top level is Gemini 2.5 Pro. This is positioned as their flagship, maximum accuracy, state-of-the-art performance. Think really complex stuff. Intricate coding, deep analysis, what they call agentic tasks, where the AI plans and executes multiple steps.
Like a really smart assistant.
Kind of, yeah. Google says it leads in benchmarks for things like math and code editing.
Okay, that's the powerhouse.
What about Flash? Gemini 2.5 Flash is engineered for speed and volume. Low latency, high throughput tasks. It's kind of the balanced all-rounder. Performance often gets close to Pro, but it costs less.
And you mentioned something interesting about it, outperforming Pro sometimes.
Yeah, with a feature they call thinking enabled, we can talk more about, that Flash can actually beat Pro on certain tasks involving pulling information from really long documents, what's called long context retrieval.
Interesting trade-off. And the new one, Flash-Lite.
Flash-Lite is the newest, described as the most cost-efficient. It's built for high-throughput, real-time stuff like classifying data or summarizing text at a massive scale. It's still in preview, but the cost is significantly lower, like a third of Flash for inputs and less than a sixth for outputs.
That cost difference is huge. And speaking of cost, they simplified the pricing too.
They did, for Flash 2.5 specifically. They got rid of a complex preview pricing structure. Now it's just a single rate. 30 cents per million input tokens and 2.50 cents per million output tokens.
Makes budget planning way easier for businesses.
Definitely. And another big accessibility move. The Pro model, the top tier one, is now available even for free tier users on the Gemini platform.
Really? Free access to the best model?
Well, with lower daily limits than paid users, but yes. It lets developers experiment and build things without needing to pay up front. It really lowers the barrier to entry.
That's smart. Now tell me more about this hybrid reasoning and thinking budget feature you mentioned. It sounds advanced.
It's a pretty core feature across this whole 2.5 family. Hybrid reasoning essentially lets the model do deeper, multi-step logical checks before it gives you an answer.
Yep.
It's like it thinks harder.
Okay. And the budget part?
The thinking budget is cool because developers can actually control how much computational effort the model puts into that reasoning for each specific query.
So you can dial it up or down.
Exactly. Lets you make a trade-off. Need super high accuracy on a complex problem? Allocate more thinking budget, but accept it might take slightly longer or cost a tiny bit more for that query? Need a faster, cheaper answer for something simpler? Lower the budget.
That's granular control. You mentioned it boosts performance.
Yeah, they gave an example. Enabling thinking on the budget Flash-Lite model boosted its score on a math benchmark from about 50% up to over 63%. So it can make a real difference in quality.
So this whole announcement, it feels less like just another model drop and more like Google maturing its AI strategy.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. It signals a move from those early rapid sprints to building a more stable, predictable, tiered foundation for their AI services. It's about long-term viability and usability for developers.
So for you listening, how does this kind of tiered AI approach actually affect you?
Well, whether you're a developer choosing tools or just someone using AI features in apps, It means the AI you interact with is becoming more specialized. It's not just one big, expensive model trying to do everything. You'll likely see faster responses for simple tasks, more accurate results for complex ones, and potentially lower costs overall for services that use these tailored models. It points to AI becoming more integrated, more efficient, and kind of optimized for purpose.
Makes sense. From the models themselves to how they're being used. Our third story takes us to YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube's making a big move with AI video generation. CEO Neal Mohan announced this at the Cannes Lions Festival recently.
What's the announcement?
They plan to integrate Google's most advanced AI video generator, called VO3, directly into YouTube Shorts. And this is planned for later this summer.
VO3, that's Google's latest and greatest in turning text into video, right?
Exactly. It's a significant upgrade from the older AI tech YouTube uses for things like its Dream Screen feature, which just generates backgrounds. VO3 can create much more complex, coherent video scenes from prompts.
And the CEO sounds pretty bullish on this.
Oh, definitely. Mohan talked about limitless possibilities, saying AI will push the limits of human creativity and open up totally new creative lanes for people making videos on the platform.
We've seen some examples of AI video generation going viral already, haven't we?
Absolutely. Things like imagining historical figures as vloggers or creating these wild animations. VO3 is capable of that kind of higher quality output. Putting it into Shorts seems like a direct play to boost creativity there.
And Shorts is strategically vital for YouTube, isn't it? Competing with TikTok and Reels.
Hugely important. They launched Shorts in 2021 specifically for that reason, to capture the short-form video audience. Mohan mentioned Shorts now gets over 200 billion views per day.
200 billion, that number is just staggering.
It really is. So adding a powerful AI creation tool directly into that ecosystem could give it a unique edge and encourage even more creation and viewing.
Does this fit into YouTube's bigger picture beyond just Shorts? What's their overall vision with AI?
It seems to be a core part of their future. Mohan made an interesting point at Cannes. He said that for YouTube viewing in the US, the TV screen has actually overtaken mobile as the primary device.
Really? YouTube on the big screen is #1 now.
Apparently so. He used that to frame YouTube as the new television, but an interactive one that includes shorts, podcasts, live streams, everything alongside the traditional videos.
And he sees creators as central to this new television.
Very much so. He called creators the startups of Hollywood, highlighting how they're building entire production teams and businesses, often starting with just a phone.
So is the idea that AI like VO3 replaces those creators or helps them?
Mohan framed it as helping. He noted that while the flashy generative stuff like VO3 gets headlines, many creators are actually most excited about AI helping with the bread and butter production tasks.
Like what? Scripting? Editing?
Things like generating video ideas, suggesting titles, creating thumbnails automatically, stuff that takes time but isn't necessarily the core creative act, freeing them up to focus on the bigger picture.
That makes sense. Are they using AI in other ways to help creators?
Yes, another big area is audience growth. They're investing heavily in AI tools for things like automatic dubbing.
Translating videos into other languages.
Exactly. Mohan said this is expanding, and they're already seeing that over 40% of the watch time for dubbed videos comes from people actively choosing to listen in a language different from the original.
Wow, so it's actually working to expand reach significantly.
Yeah, it breaks down language barriers, opens up global audiences for creators in a way that was much harder and more expensive before AI.
So connecting this back to the listener, think about how integrating something like VO3 into Shorts could change things for you.
Right. As a viewer, you might see even more creative, maybe even surreal, short videos. As a potential creator, does this lower the barrier? Could you make compelling videos just by typing prompts?
It definitely raises questions too, doesn't it? About authenticity, about distinguishing human creativity from AI generation, especially as the tech gets better.
For sure. It's going to be fascinating to watch how creators use these tools and how audiences react. It's another step in AI weaving itself into our media landscape.
Okay, let's quickly recap the ground we covered today.
We started with that complex situation in Memphis, the NAACP versus XAI over the Colossus data center, focusing on environmental justice and regulatory questions around powering AI.
Then we looked at Google's strategic refinement of its Gemini AI models, the new tiered structure, the simplified pricing, the thinking budget, making AI more accessible and tailored for developers.
And finally, YouTube's plan to put advanced AI video generation, VO3, into the hands of Shorts creators, potentially reshaping short-form video content.
So the final thought to leave you with.
Consider just how tightly connected all these things are becoming. You have the physical infrastructure, the data centers, with their environmental footprint, powering the development of these incredibly sophisticated AI models.
Which are then used to create tools that generate content we consume daily on platforms like YouTube.
Exactly. It's a cycle. The digital and physical are merging. The technology and society are constantly influencing each other. So the real question is, what does this intensifying relationship mean for how we live, how we work, how we interact, maybe even how we define creativity or authenticity in the very near future? Lots to think about.
Indeed. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We are here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.